The envelope was sitting on the kitchen table when I came home from work. It was thick. Too thick. My name was written across the front in my son's handwriting. Dad, nothing else. I stood there for almost a minute before opening it. Inside was a photograph. A young boy standing beside an old beat-up baseball field. On the back, my son had written, "This is where I learned to dream." Underneath it was another note. "I know you couldn't afford to give me the future I wanted, so I built one myself, but I couldn't have done it without you." I sat down. My hands began shaking. Because 3 years earlier, I had been the father who couldn't afford his son's dream. I had watched my 16-year-old boy stand in our kitchen with tears in his eyes and tell me what he wanted to become. And I had looked him in the face and said the hardest words a parent can ever say. "I'm sorry, buddy. We just can't afford it." I thought that conversation had broken his heart. I never imagined it would change both of our lives. My name is Daniel Carter. I was 39 when my wife Melissa passed away. She had been sick for almost 2 years. Cancer. I still hate that word. Even years later. Melissa was the kind of person who could make a bad day feel temporary. She laughed loudly. She sang while cooking. She danced in the kitchen even when she had no music playing. And she had one great weakness. Our son Noah. Noah was 11 when she died. He was tall for his age, skinny, quiet, and always carrying a baseball glove. Melissa used to call him my little professor, because he was constantly asking questions. Why was the sky blue? How did airplanes stay in the air? Why did baseballs curve? Could humans live on Mars? Why did some people have more money than others? And one question she never got tired of answering. What do you think I should be when I grow up? Her answer was always the same. Whatever makes you want to get out of bed in the morning. After she died, the house became painfully quiet. No singing, no dancing, no laughter coming from the kitchen. Just me and Noah, 2 people trying to figure out how to live without the person who had made our little family feel complete. For the first year, I barely survived financially. I worked maintenance at a large apartment complex outside Cleveland, Ohio. The pay wasn't terrible, but it wasn't enough to make life easy. I worked overtime whenever I could. I fixed broken air conditioners, repaired leaking pipes, painted apartments between tenants, cleared snow in the winter. Sometimes I'd work 12 hours and come home so tired, I could barely take my boots off. But every evening, Noah waited for me. He would sit at the kitchen table doing homework. Sometimes he'd look up and ask, "How was work?" I'd say, "Same old." He'd smile. "Did you fix everything?" I would smile back. Most things. I never told him that sometimes I ate dinner at work because I wanted to make sure there was enough food at home. I never told him that I had started wearing the same 3 shirts because buying new clothes wasn't a priority, and I certainly never told him that I had stopped thinking about my own future. My future was Noah. That was it. When Noah was 14, something changed. He discovered robotics. Not the kind of robots you see in movies. Real robotics, motors, sensors, microcontrollers, programming, mechanical design. He became obsessed. He watched tutorials after school. He built tiny machines out of cardboard, old wires, broken toys, and anything else he could find. One Saturday morning, I walked into the garage and found him sitting on the floor, surrounded by pieces of an old vacuum cleaner. "What are you doing?" "Building something." "What?" "A robot." I looked at the pile. "It looks like a vacuum cleaner exploded." He laughed. "That's because I haven't finished it." "What does it do?" He held up a tiny circuit board. "It can detect objects and change direction." I stared at him. "You made that?" Mostly. My friend Marcus helped me." I smiled. "That's pretty impressive." Noah looked down. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Mom would have liked this." My smile disappeared. "Yeah." He nodded. "She always told me to build things." I sat beside him. She was right. A year later, Noah came home carrying a letter. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "I got accepted." "Accepted where?" He handed me the letter. It was from a prestigious summer engineering program at a university in Pennsylvania. It was a 6-week residential program. for high school students interested in robotics and engineering. It could change his future. The program offered college credits, access to advanced laboratories, mentors, scholarships, connections with universities. I read the letter twice, then I saw the cost. $7,800. My heart sank. Noah watched my face. You see it? Yeah. It's okay. I looked at him. What do you mean? I knew it was expensive. I folded the letter. Maybe we can figure something out. He smiled. Really? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. That night, after Noah went to bed, I opened my bank account. $2,046. Our savings. That's all we had. And that money was supposed to cover emergencies. Car repairs, medical expenses, bills, food, everything. I checked my credit card. Almost maxed out. I looked at a personal loan. The monthly payment would be more than I could comfortably afford. I considered selling my truck, but I needed it for work. I sat at the kitchen table until nearly 3 a.m. I searched for scholarships. I searched for grants. I emailed the program. I called them. I asked if they had financial assistance. They did, but the deadline was approaching, and there were no guarantees. I filled out every form I could find. I wrote essays. I gathered documents. I even contacted a local charity. Nothing. The final answer arrived 2 weeks later. They could offer Noah a small scholarship, but I would still owe nearly $5,000. $5,000 might as well have been $5 million. I knew the truth. We couldn't afford it. The hardest conversation happened on a Tuesday night. Noah was sitting at the kitchen table. The acceptance letter was beside him. I sat across from him. Buddy? He looked up. Yeah? I talked to the program. His face brightened. What did they say? They gave you some financial assistance. How much? About $3,000. He smiled. That's awesome. I nodded. It is. Then I took a breath. But we'd still have to pay almost $5,000. His smile disappeared. Oh, I tried everything. I know. I called people. I know. I looked at loans. Don't do that. What? Don't take out a loan for me. I stared at him. I can figure it out. No. Yes. No, Dad. His voice became stronger. I don't want you working yourself to death. I looked down. We'll find a way. He shook his head. No. Buddy. No. He pushed the letter away. I don't want you to sell the truck. I hadn't told him I was considering it. He looked at me. You think I don't notice things? I was silent. You've been working every Saturday. I swallowed. You've been skipping lunch. My eyes burned. And last week, you told Mrs. Parker you couldn't fix your truck because you were saving money. I looked away. Noah's voice softened. Dad, I'm sorry. He shook his head. Why are you apologizing? Because I can't give you this. He looked at the letter, then back at me. I know. I'm your dad. I know. I'm supposed to help you. You have. No, I haven't. He stood up. Dad? What? You gave me everything you had. I shook my head. Not everything? Yes. He walked around the table. You gave me your time. He pointed toward the garage. You taught me how to fix things. Then he pointed toward the living room. You taught me how to keep going when Mom died. His eyes filled with tears. And you gave me something money can't buy. What? He whispered. You believed in me. I couldn't speak. He hugged me. And that night we cried together. I thought that was the end of Noah's dream. It wasn't. The next morning, he did something I didn't expect. He took the acceptance letter. He folded it, put it in an envelope, and placed it in a drawer. Then he went to work. Not a real job at first. He started repairing bicycles for people in our neighborhood. Then lawn equipment. Then small electronics. He created a simple website using a free template. Noah's Fix-It Shop. His first customer was our neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez. She had an old lawnmower that wouldn't start. Noah fixed it. She offered him $40. He tried to refuse. She insisted. Then she told 3 neighbors. Those neighbors told others. Soon Noah was fixing computers. game consoles, lawnmowers, bicycles, small appliances, anything he could understand. And he learned quickly. Very quickly. One evening I came home and found him working on an old laptop. "What are you doing?" "Learning." "Learning what?" "How to repair motherboards." I laughed. "Of course you are." He smiled. A few months later, something strange happened. Noah came into the kitchen carrying a shoebox. "Dad?" "What?" "I need your help." "With what?" He put the box on the table. It was full of money. Not a fortune, but a lot. Hundreds of dollars. I stared. "Where did you get this?" "Business." "What business?" "My business." I laughed. "You made all this?" "Not all." He opened his laptop. He showed me spreadsheets, customer names, jobs, expenses, profit, savings. I stared at the numbers. "You've been saving?" "Every dollar." "Why?" He shrugged. "For college." I felt something tighten in my chest. "You're saving for college?" "Yeah." "How much?" He looked embarrassed. "About $3,200. I stared at him. "You're 16. "I know." "You've saved over $3,000? He nodded. I sat down. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted to see if I could do it." I looked at him. "And?" He smiled. "I can." Then came the opportunity that changed everything. One afternoon, Noah received an email from a local technology company. They had heard about his repair work. They invited him to demonstrate one of his robotics projects. He almost didn't go. He thought they were going to laugh at him. I drove him. He carried a homemade robot in a plastic storage container. We walked into a building filled with engineers. People wearing company badges. People with advanced degrees. People who had built things worth millions of dollars. Noah looked nervous. "You ready?" "No." I smiled. "Good." "What?" "If you were completely comfortable, I'd be worried." He laughed. Then he walked inside. For the next 2 hours, I watched my son explain his robot. He talked about sensors, algorithms, mechanical design, power efficiency. He spoke with confidence. Not because he had money, not because he had expensive equipment, because he had spent years teaching himself. When he finished, the room was silent. Then one of the engineers stood up. He clapped. Everyone followed. Noah looked at me. His eyes were shining. The company didn't offer him a job. He was too young. Instead, they offered him something better. A paid internship once he graduated high school, and a scholarship recommendation. But the biggest surprise came 2 weeks later. The university that had originally accepted him for the summer program contacted him again. They had seen his robotics project. They had heard about his community repair business. They asked him to submit a new application. This time he received a full scholarship. Tuition, housing, books, everything. Noah ran into the kitchen waving the letter. "Dad!" I turned around. "What happened?" He threw the letter onto the table. I read it, then read it again, then looked at him. "Full scholarship?" He nodded. "Full scholarship." I grabbed him. We hugged. I laughed. He laughed. Then we both cried. But there was something I didn't know. Noah hadn't simply applied again. He had built an entire portfolio. He had documented every project, every repair, every community service job, every robotics design. He had written about losing his mother. He had written about me. He had written about the night I told him we couldn't afford his dream. And in his essay he wrote, "My father couldn't afford to buy me the future I wanted. So he gave me something more valuable. He taught me how to build it." I didn't know he'd written those words until months later. Noah went to college. I stayed in Ohio. The house felt empty. Too quiet. But this time the silence was different. It wasn't grief. It was pride. Every Sunday we'd talk on the phone. He'd tell me about classes, projects, friends, professors. I told him about work, the weather, the neighbors, everything. One Sunday he said, "Dad?" "Yeah?" "Do you remember the old baseball field behind the elementary school?" "Of course." Take me there when I come home. Why? You'll see. 6 months later, Noah came home. He was different. Older. More confident. He had gained some muscle. Started wearing glasses. And he had the same smile his mother had. We drove to the old baseball field. It was abandoned. The fence was rusted. The grass was overgrown. The dugouts were falling apart. Noah got out of the car. Why are we here? He smiled. You'll see. A group of people were standing near the field. I recognized some of them. Mrs. Rodriguez, our neighbors, the technology company engineer, a few local business owners. Then Noah handed me a folder. Inside were blueprints, plans, budgets, photos. I looked at him. What is this? He smiled. Remember when you told me we couldn't afford my dream? I nodded. I remember. I thought about it a lot. He pointed toward the field. So I decided to build something that other kids could afford. I stared at him. He continued. This is going to become a free community technology and robotics center. I couldn't speak. We're going to teach kids how to build robots. He pointed at the old building beside the field. That building will become the workshop. Who paid for this? He smiled. I did. I laughed. You? Me. How? Scholarships, grants, sponsors, my internship. I looked around. He continued. And I got the city to donate the building. I couldn't believe it. Why? He looked at me. Because there are kids like me everywhere. He paused. Kids who have big dreams and parents who don't have big wallets. My eyes filled with tears. I want them to have a chance. That summer the building opened. We called it the Melissa Carter Community Makerspace, after Noah's mother. There were computers, 3D printers, robotics kits, workbenches, tools, books, everything kids needed to build things. And it was free. One Saturday morning, I watched a little girl walk inside. She was maybe 10. She stood beside a table filled with robotics equipment. She looked nervous. A volunteer asked, "Do you want to build something?" She nodded. "What?" she whispered. "A robot." The volunteer smiled. "Then let's build one." I looked across the room. Noah was helping another kid connect wires. He looked happy, not rich, not famous, just happy. And I realized something. My son hadn't lost his dream because we couldn't afford it. He had transformed it. Years later, Noah became a successful engineer. He worked on robotic systems. He published research. He spoke at schools. But every year, he returned to that little community center. He never forgot where he came from. One evening, after everyone had left, we sat outside the building. The sun was setting. I looked at him. "Are you happy?" He smiled. "Yeah." "Do you ever wish things had been different?" He thought for a moment. "I wish Mom were here." "So do I. But no." "No? I wouldn't change everything." "Why?" He looked at the building. "Because if we had been rich, maybe I would have learned to expect things." He turned toward me. "But because we weren't..." He smiled. "I learned to build them." I looked away because my eyes were filling with tears. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Dad?" "Yeah? You always thought you failed me because you couldn't afford my dream." I nodded. "Yeah." He shook his head. "You didn't fail me." He placed his hand on mine. "You taught me that a dream isn't something somebody gives you." He smiled. "It's something you keep working toward?" That night, when I got home, I found the old acceptance letter in a box. The one from years ago. The one that had once represented everything I couldn't give my son. I almost threw it away. Instead, I framed it. Underneath it, I wrote, "Sometimes the door you can't afford to open leads you to the door you were meant to build." I keep that frame in my living room because every time I look at it, I remember the 16-year-old boy sitting at our kitchen table. I remember his tears. I remember saying, "I'm sorry, buddy. We just can't afford it." And I remember thinking I had failed him. But I hadn't. I had simply misunderstood what being a father meant. I thought being a good father meant giving my child everything. A nice house. A new car. The best schools. Expensive opportunities. A perfect childhood. But children don't always remember what we bought. They remember what we taught them. They remember whether we showed up. They remember whether we believed in them. They remember whether we stayed when things were hard. And sometimes, the greatest gift a parent can give a child isn't money. It's the courage to keep going when money isn't there. One year on Father's Day, Noah showed up at my house unexpectedly.